Good evening. Thank you so much for attending our program on the Alabama Channel. I'm Kim Bailey, President of League of Women Voters of Alabama, and we are excited to have you here in preparation really for our legislative session, which starts next Tuesday, the 13th of January. And so Tara Bailey, the director of the Alabama Channel, is going to walk us through this fabulous resource that we have to help you navigate the legislature and all of the work that it does, and some other public boards that we have information on. So, and questions. If you have questions, put those in the chat, and we will monitor those and get to those whenever Tara's ready. So, Tara?
Thank you, Kim. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about the upcoming legislative session and get everybody reacquainted with the process and talk about how the Alabama Channel can help you stay informed throughout this next 30-day legislative session. So it's set to begin in just 5 days, and this is really the perfect moment to get up to speed with how the legislative process works and how to stay informed as decisions that impact our communities start moving really quickly. Tonight's presentation is about giving you the tools to watch what's happening, search for the information you need, and act with confidence and purpose throughout the session ahead. In this training tonight, you're going to gain a clear understanding of how the legislature is structured, how decisions move through the legislative process, and you'll learn how to use Allison to find upcoming meetings and track bills, along with an overview of the Alabama Channel and the tools it offers. The session will also walk through some practical ways to research legislation using the Alabama Channel and show how archived meeting footage can be used effectively to support advocacy, storytelling, and civic engagement efforts. So first, let's dive into how the legislature is made up. Alabama has a bicameral legislature composed of two chambers, the House of Representatives, which has 105 members, and the Senate, which has 35 members. For a bill to become a law, it must pass through both chambers, though committees in each chamber hold the most power over legislation. If you're unsure of who your legislators are, you can visit the alabamachannel.org and scroll down to the Get Informed section and click Find Your Legislator. And then you can enter your address in to see who your representatives are. Kathy is going to drop a link into the chat just so you can find out who they are. So the 2026 Alabama legislative session begins on Tuesday, January 13th, as Kim said. And the reason it starts in January this year is because it's an election year. So lawmakers meet for up to 30 legislative days, which must occur within a 105 calendar day window. Typically, the legislature holds floor sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is when the House and Senate meets, while Wednesdays are reserved for committee meetings where most of the bills are debated and amended. Also, the regular session must conclude within 105 days of January 13th, though the exact end date depends on how quickly the legislature uses its 30 meeting days, and additional work may happen if a special session is called by the governor. So how this works is the bill is introduced by a legislator, they file it, and then it's assigned to a committee by legislative leadership. So the Speaker of the House, and then the President pro tempore in the Senate. Once a bill is introduced, it's assigned to a committee, and the committee chair has a lot of control over what bills actually get heard, including, it's a good idea for advocates to request a public hearing soon after a bill has been assigned to the committee, as this is the best opportunity for legislators to hear from the public. The committee stage is often the most critical. So a bill may be debated, amended, and voted on, or it may quietly die without ever receiving a hearing or public input. If a bill advances out of committee, it moves to the floor of the chamber for the debate and vote, and then it repeats the process in the second chamber. So if the House and Senate pass different versions of a bill, there's a conference committee that gets appointed to resolve the differences and agree on a final version. And once that version is approved by both chambers, the bill is sent to the governor, who may sign it into law, veto it, or take no action, allowing it to become law after the required period. If the governor vetoes the bill, the legislature may override the veto with a majority vote in both chambers. I'm going to go over Allison just a bit, but we're going to jump into the Allison website. So Allison is Alabama's official legislative website, and it provides tools to track the legislative process. You can view bills and information, search bills by keyword or sponsor, check session committee calendars, find legislator contact information. There's just a whole lot of information on Allison, and we'll get into that in just a bit. So the Alabama channel is primarily, it's a website that provides simple, searchable, live and recorded video footage of Alabama's legislative meetings. It is a project of League of Women Voters, obviously, for their education fund, and it started back in 2022, since Alabama's legislative meetings are only live streamed and not archived by the legislature. So the goal of the Alabama channel is to empower citizens with the tools and information they need to stay informed, participate actively, and help shape the state's governance. We serve legislators, advocacy groups, the media, and the public with this free resource. The Alabama channel live streams all of the meetings to Facebook, YouTube, and our website. But not all meetings actually are live streamed by the legislature. So we have a couple employees on the ground to record the non-live streamed meetings, and those end up being uploaded to YouTube and our website within about 24 hours of the meeting occurring, as soon as we can get them uploaded. Since its start, we've successfully recorded over 1,400 meetings and have over 1,000 YouTube subscribers. And if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel or followed us on Facebook, please do that and share it with your friends as well. So reporters benefit from our footage because they can't be everywhere at once. And at times there are up to 25 committee meetings happening on a Wednesday. So it's really important for them to get accurate quotes and be able to go back and research topics from past years. Interestingly, AL.com has used some of our footage to create TikToks, and they've gotten, you can see there, 571,000 views of this footage. So it's really critical that we're recording this meeting, and it is being used by the media and others. So if you're somewhat new to civic engagement, or you need a refresher, I would really recommend starting with issues you care about the most. You can use Allison or the Alabama channel, but you can also connect with organizations who are working on topics you're interested in. You can look through past news articles, or you can see what legislation other states may have passed related to your topics of interest through checking out sites like Fast Democracy. So at this time, I'm going to jump into Allison and show you some of the places that you can find this information. Let me share again. Okay. Can everybody see that there? Let's see.
I think it's still showing your slide. Yeah.
We're going to jump into Allison right now. Okay, so this is Allison. The meetings are going to start January 13th. And what I want to show you first is where you can see what meetings are coming up for the week. So you'll go over here and click meetings. As you can see, they had a contract review committee meeting today that we live streamed. Starting the 13th, or actually 14th here, they're starting some meetings coming up. You can see the Ports, Waterways, and Intermodal Transit Standing Committee is going to meet. So whatever committees are meeting, you can click on these links here, and you'll see just a bit of information about it. You'll see what bills are coming up, which is really important. So finding out what bills are in each committee and as they're added to the calendar. So there's that. And then let's see here. So this will all be live streamed from this site. So we live stream it to the Alabama channel. To search for bills, if you go over to bills at the top here, you can see that the current session has 179 bills that have already been pre-filed. So you can go through here, click on these, and find out more information about each of them. Let's It's not allowing to click on it, but you could also search bills from the past. So say you're interested in hearing aids, for instance. This was a bill that was passed last legislative session where it took the sales tax off of hearing aids. So whatever topic you'd voting, whatever topic, you can type it in here and see what bills are out there related to hearing aids or whatever you're looking for. So this is the bill in particular that was passed, and I want to show you how you can find bills and then search where the footage is on the Alabama channel to see what was said about these specific bills. So if I click on here on HB 51, it shows that the bill was enacted. So this is the final version of the bill here that was enacted. You can read that, and then you can also go to bill history. So the bill history is going to show you where the bill went through the process, the dates that it went through, the different committees, and all of that. So here you can see on February 28th that it went through the committee in the House Ways and Means Education Committee. So I can take that information now and go, and I know this was last year, so I'm going to hop on over to the Alabama channel. And when you get here, you can click on Watch Meetings. And this is going to give you two options. So keep in mind the hearing aid thing, but for a second, I'm going to pivot. So we record not only legislative meetings, but we're also beginning to bring in meetings of the State Board of Education, the Public Service Commission, Environmental Management Commission, just state agencies that are, having meetings that are affecting legislation in Alabama. We're wanting to give people a bigger picture and window into all of these. Also, with the ability to search through these meetings with keyword search, which is a really powerful part of what we're doing with the Alabama channel. So let me go back to the legislative session meetings and show you if I type in hearing aids and hit search, I know that the meeting that happened that I want to see what happened on February 28th. So what it does is it goes out through all of the 1,400 meetings we recorded, and it finds every single time hearing aids was mentioned. So if I scroll down, I'm looking for February 28th. Here we are on February 28th, and then you can click on the link here, and it's going to open up and take you right to that moment where this bill was discussed. So if you're doing any research on a bill, or there's maybe a bill that's coming up this session that you find has come up in past years as well, which is often the case with bills, they don't seem, a bill might not pass right away. It might take years to pass, but it's really interesting to go back and hear the conversations that happened on those bills that you're interested in, so that you're better equipped to make the case either for or against a bill moving forward.
First up would be Representative Wilcox.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I'm very pleased to present House Bill 51. I'm seeking to remove the sales tax from hearing aids.
So as you can hear, the word hearing aids was said. And if I wanted to take that now, so say there's a bill that's going through the legislative session, this coming legislative session, you're going to be able to get onto our site, find where that was discussed, and then be able to send that out to your friends or to the organizations you're working with. You can send a direct link here, and it's going to start that video right at the moment where that bill is discussed. So it's a really strong advocacy tool to use to alert other people to what's going on and get them to that information quickly. Another really cool feature is if there's a public hearing and you go to speak during a public hearing, for instance, Kathy Jones has spoken at meetings of the legislature, and let me go back and show you. But you can take your name, because you're going to have to state your name in front of the committee, and you can search your name for that through the Alabama channel and find those moments where you spoke in front of the committee, and then share that out with your friends and let everybody know what you did and how you feel about a piece of legislation and how they need to reach out to their representatives. So down here, Kathy's mentioned here, so you can click on it and you just directly get to that moment.
Through the
The
legislature.
emergency absentee ballot
Okay.
request. I'm Kathy Jones.
Yeah.
So Kathy's speaking there. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions so far? Or if you want to raise your hand and we will call on you. Kathy, do you see anybody? Oh, you're muted.
I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand yet.
Okay. Some of the other things about our website is we have a blog that we work to try to update, but it's bringing in different topics. So for instance, legislation in Alabama involving firearms. We have a blog out here that goes out and it's pulling in all the bills that are have been filed, the bills that have footage on them. So you can go and see that. And so that's, if you're just exploring a certain topic, you can go through and look at that. And then I'll show you one other thing on Allison that is interesting. Once you find your representative, so if you look at the Senate and House members here, let's see. Let's go to the House. For whatever reason, the website doesn't want to pull up members of the House right at this moment. We go back. I don't know why their website's not working at the moment, so I can't pull it up, but you can find your representative, you can find all the legislation they've sponsored, which I think is really interesting. And you can also go in and find all of the different committees and who is serving on those committees.
I think they're working on the website. I've noticed the last couple
really?
of days that it's funky.
It's a little funky. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back into the legislative sessions and show you some of the information you can find. So when we upload meetings of a committee meeting, you can go in here and you're going to see that the bills that are discussed are on the right-hand side. So if there was a bill that you were wanting to find out what happened with that bill, you're going to be able to go in and click directly on that moment where the bill
78
start to be discussed. Down here, we have the agenda. So it's kind of the same, similar, but the agenda is going to be listed here. And then the journal, we wanted to make sure everybody understands like who's in that meeting, because sometimes it can be hard to see everyone and like know who's serving on those committees. So we make it easy for you to come down and see who serves on that committee and maybe who spoke to different things if you don't know. So that's down here as well on all of our different committee meetings. Let's see if it's. Here we go. So my representative is Philip Rigsby. So if I was to come down here, I can see his contact information and I can also see the legislation he sponsored. So if you're curious, what kind of legislation your representative is sponsored, I think this is a good way to check this out. And then you can take that information of the legislation they sponsored and go find that footage on the Alabama channel and see how they presented it, what kind of conversations they had. Really, this is a big research project for anybody that just wants to find out more about like what's happening in our legislature and what's being discussed. I mean, sometimes there are conversations that happen on the House floor that I think are worthy of listening to, even if they're not about legislation. You could type in a word, for instance, so maybe it's voting, and their voting could be discussed in a meeting that a bill wasn't even there about voting. So topics are being discussed in these meetings that are not even related to legislation sometimes. and getting that insight into what's being talked about, even in meetings where you didn't realize they were even going to talk about voting, is interesting. Does anybody have any questions at the moment?
Tara, one of the things you mentioned, I think is important when a lot of times you'll hear them mention something unrelated, like in a committee that's not assigned a bill, you may hear someone say something that relates back to a bill that you've been tracking. And you can't be in two places at once. You may have been in a different meeting. So so that's where the search engine that you got here is really valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we do have a couple of questions that have popped up in the chat. One is asking about who funds the programs, these resources, and I can tell you that Allison is funded by the legislature, so that is their website. But the Alabama channel, that is the League of Women Voters of Alabama Education Fund. We started that and continue to have that as one of our programs. So, but Allison, it does belong to the legislature, so we can't take any responsibility for whether or not it works. So also, does Allison have reliable contact information? Well, again, it is the legislature's website. And so generally the information on there I have found is their email addresses and their phone numbers are their official ones, right? So they go to the .gov accounts and they call the State House. So whether or not they respond to those, I can't say for everyone. I have found a few representatives who do put in a Gmail email or something like that. But for the most part, it is their official contact information. So I would say that varies by your representative. So
It's easier to get hold of a senator than a House member.
yes, because they have staff,
They
right? So that is absolutely an excellent point. They have someone who answers their phone for them, does scheduling, things like that. So yes, that is very true. And the other question we have is if this is being used by any schools. So Tara, are you aware of if any schools are using the Alabama channel to help with civics education?
Actually, I don't know that any schools are using it quite yet, but we are wanting that to happen. That's kind of one of our plans, to have this be a civic education tool for putting some classroom tutorials and things together that lesson plans that teachers can use that'll fit with the curriculum is something we've definitely talked about, and we would love to work with anybody. If there's a teacher on this call tonight and would like to work with us, I'm happy to come and meet with your class or do something like that. That would be wonderful. We do have it in some libraries where if you go in, you'll see the Alabama channel is one of the links that you can get to. So we're working on a kind of a pilot program for that in Baldwin County library system. Yeah.
Great. Those are all the questions in the chat for now. So, yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, I just encourage everybody to get on the site and start playing around with it. Right now there are conversations going around. I know flu's really bad right now, for instance, right? And there's conversations around how students or attendance is being affected. There's a lot of incentives to have students come to school so that they have perfect attendance. And then the flu's happening. So I might type in, this is the search engine that's only going to search these meetings. So we try to separate these two out from the state agency meetings to the legislative meetings so that when you search this, it's only going to search this set of meetings. So it's policy. So if I type in that, you might be able to find information on these things. So attendance policy is going to end up going to the State Board of Education. Maybe their work sessions, they had talked about attendance policies and flu season, you know, so you can get in here and find out information about those things so that when you maybe go to approach a school board, for instance, and say something about this, you'll be better educated in what was discussed before in these Board of Education meetings. I have used this tool because the hearing aid issue is kind of something I've taken on aside from things, because every city and county has to pass their own rule to eliminate the local sales tax from hearing aids. And that was an amendment that was placed on the bill in committee. So Kathy actually has a link and a flyer that I created by going out and taking some of the footage from when that legislation passed and putting it on a flyer as like a civic action to let people know across the state that this is something they can take action on with their own city council members, like to go up and say, you know, if you pass this resolution, we could actually eliminate sales tax on hearing aids locally. There are just different ways to think about using this information. You may even want to get the footage, say a bill goes through committee in the House, and you want your representative to know how you feel about a bill. These representatives are being flooded with information, like flooded with all these bills. They are not an expert in all of it, right? You just can't be. And so if you can be that person that grabs that footage for them and sends it to them and says, hey, make sure you saw what happened in that public meeting, you know, in that committee about that bill. It's not just that it received a favorable report, but here's all the context of that. You know, maybe that would help them make their decision on the House floor or the Senate floor. So there's a lot of ways to use it. Let's see. How many of you have heard of like bill tracking places like Fast Democracy? Yeah. Let's see. So Fast Democracy is a bill tracking group here, and I don't know if I can get into their site without a book a demo, sign up, log in. Anyhow, I think it's really interesting how you can go on to their site, and if you're looking for legislation to bring up to your representative, something that you want done, you can find legislation based on certain issues you care about in all 50 states. And if you see something, you could take it to them and say, I want this same bill to pass here in Alabama. And it was, you know, good for the people in whatever state. And I think it would be good for people here. And then take it to them and they could actually, you know, file a bill related to that. See if there's anything else. You know, the contract review committee meetings, it sounds kind of boring, honestly, but if you want to see how the state's money is being spent, I think that's a really interesting meeting to check out. And the contract review committee meetings they actually have a lot of information. Let's see. Joint resources, these agendas. So this was the agenda, for instance, for today, and it had 124 pages of information. So sometimes you start digging into these committee meetings and meetings that are happening, and you just discover a lot of information. I know that I didn't know about all of this when I started this, but you can find out all the different contracts that they're approving with these different agencies. So I thought it might be worth mentioning.
Tara, on that, I think that was where you can see if they're hiring people as well, like a contractor to be a special attorney for for some of the redistricting. I remember you saw some contracts that were being discussed.
Yeah.
So there's just anything that's being put forward. You know, if you're interested in redistricting and seeing how much they're paying to defend their lawsuit. then you can see it.
That's pretty interesting. Now, I will say that bills that are, there's pre-file bills and then there's bills that are going to come up really quickly. So you have to stay pretty vigilant on the Allison site to see what bills are being pre-filed or filed during the session. Because once a bill is filed, it can move really quickly. A lot of the different organizations like League of Women Voters and other advocacy groups try to, be in touch with what's happening and all of that and alert everybody to those things. But, you can be a part of that as well and take interest in seeing what the calendar says, what bills have been introduced. Sometimes a bill is, I think, delayed and then introduced, and then it moves really quickly because there's a plan in place to move it really fast. But once a bill is introduced into committee, and that's when you can request a public hearing. So that has to happen pretty quickly, and anybody can request a public hearing from a committee chair. I think it's important to hear the public's perspective on these bills, and so those are the meetings that end up being prioritized. Although we capture all the meetings, we try to make sure when we're streaming 2 meetings at a time that it's going to be meetings that have public hearings attached to those. Let's see what's coming up here. In the beginning of this legislative session and every legislative session, they have to pass the budget. So that's kind of the first meetings you'll start seeing are the budget hearings, along with some of the committee meetings that'll start happening. Some of our most watched meetings on the Alabama channel have been the Joint Prison Oversight Committee meetings. I don't know if everybody saw, I think it's the Alabama Solution. Is that what the documentary? I think that's the name of it, about our prison system. It's interesting to see those meetings because you'll see loved ones come up and talk about their family members that are in prison being beat up and different things. So it's an emotional meeting to watch. But if you're going to be interested in that documentary, you may also be interested in checking out the meetings that have happened on those topics. If you all would help us let people know that this resource exists. One way to do that I find entertaining a little bit, because all this can be pretty heavy. I know we're living in a time where all the news is pretty heavy. I think going in here and typing happy birthday is one really kind of fun way to get the information out to let people know that you can search for specific things. Our legislature sings happy birthday quite a bit, and it's not the best rendition, but you can share this on social media and say happy birthday to your friend, and it's like a song from the legislature, right, singing happy birthday. So
She said, "Oh, this happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Evelyn."
So there's a lot of renditions of happy birthday that are out there that you can choose from to to share with your friends. Any other questions? I know it's kind of moved through a lot of this quickly. We do have a tip sheet about different things to focus in on with the Alabama channel, tips and tricks, and we will be sending that out along with the recording. We also have that sheet that I did about the hearing aid, so maybe it'll give you some ideas on how to structure a flyer if you wanted to put something like that together. Yeah.
Hey, Tara, there was one question. They asked if you and the Alabama channel have been on a podcast to discuss this information.
No, we really haven't been on a podcast. We've talked to a lot of different organizations that focus on the legislature to show them, what the tool does. It is free, and we do want to stress that this is a free resource. If you ever see and we've seen some of this happening where companies are trying to sell video footage now, and using some automated processes, they're actually using our free footage to have people pay for this. And so don't ever pay for it. You can get it free here. And we just need to make sure everybody knows that this is the free resource for everyone. and to not pay for that footage somewhere else. But if anybody has a podcast that we could be on to share this information far and wide, we would love to do that. Yeah, really, it boils down to, like, no matter what you care about, you really need to know what your legislators are saying about it and how they're voting on it. And so we're all about government transparency. It's, it's absolutely a nonpartisan issue. We all should be informed about those things. And we want to make it as easy as possible to find that information quickly. Other states record their meetings, but some of them don't have a way to search it. So when you have hours and hours of footage and no way to dig through that data with the keyword search, that's, at a detriment to the citizens of that state. So, the rest.
We have a question. Can anyone attend a legislative session? And yes, they are open to the public. So yes, if you want to go down to Montgomery and sit in on a session, they have a gallery above that you can sit in and watch. They ask, oh, you mentioned subscribing. And then how do they do that? So if you want to explain the process to subscribe to the YouTube and Facebook and everything.
Oh, yes. Let me show you. So if you go to YouTube, we will see here. This is not let's see. Let's go to YouTube down here. So you'll just be on YouTube and you can just come here and hit subscribe. We have over 1,000 people that have subscribed to our channel. And what that does on YouTube is when you subscribe and a video goes live, when we're live, it's going to come up here that the Alabama channel is now live, and you'll get a notification that it's live, which is kind of nice because sometimes we get busy and don't think about what meetings are happening, but you may be in your car or you may be, wherever you are in your office or whatever, and you just want to tune in and listen in for a little bit. I really encourage people, even if there's a bill, not a bill that you're focusing in on or anything, just have it play in the background a little bit and be able to hear what some of the conversations are that are happening down there. It's really eye-opening to listen in to just the House, because sometimes the House and Senate, they're going to go, especially later in the session, they'll go for 8 hours. I mean, it's a long meeting. And in the Senate, it can be really difficult to know what bills they're going to talk about that day because they don't post the calendar in a timely manner. The House is a little bit better about doing that. There's a special order calendar they sometimes post. And so you just don't know what bills are going to be discussed, and you have to be really on top of it to know what's going to come up. And when you're going to have to make those calls, when there's might be an alert to call about a bill. Hopefully some of the organizations you all follow will be able to tell you when to call and what to do that way. But it can move really quickly. The Tuesdays and Thursdays is when the House and Senate typically are meeting after the January 13th start date. There will be some committee meetings that'll happen on those Tuesdays and Thursdays that'll happen in the morning, usually. Wednesdays, there could be up to 25 committee meetings happening on a Wednesday. So it can, you want to kind of pick and choose which meetings you're if you want to watch them live, or you can just go back and search it afterwards. You never know. I mean, this past session, they actually called into session the House and Senate on a Wednesday because they wanted to push a piece of legislation through really quickly, and they limited the amount of debate on that bill to get those things through fast. So you never know what they're going to do. But they have a lot of strings to pull, and they can do a lot of things down there. So it's kind of like football. This is my football season for me. Like, I don't watch football, but the legislature is my football. So stay in tune with it.
So, hey, Kathy, I'm going to, there's a question that they want to know how the Alabama channel was created, and do we receive funding from somewhere? And so you were president when it was created. So
okay,
I'd like to address that.
All right. So back, I guess it's Tara, how many years have we been going?
2022 is when
2022. And so this was something that to me is just an example of what makes the League of Women Voters such a really unique and fantastic organization, is that, Tara came forward. She was a member of the league, and she had this idea for the Alabama channel. And so we talked about it as a board and decided this was something that we wanted to do. The legislature was starting to live stream as a part of COVID. And so we wanted to capture it as part of a transparency project that we had. We feel like transparency is foundational to everything in Alabama. It needs to be. And so we were able to get some grants from the National League that helped us jumpstart this project. And so we used the grants that we received from our National League organization to basically, Tara went and was really the one that figured it out as far as how it would be formulated and organized, and found the software that we would use, and from there we've been operating off of funding from grants and private donations, and that's really where all the funding has come from. And it's a testimony to people caring about transparency, and then the passion of the people like Tara that has just been on it and keeping this going. Hope that answered your question.
I will add to that, Kathy. If you all are in a city, I would be curious to know if your city council live streams their meetings. So this is not just on a state level, but we can look at this on a local level as well. And, a lot of our city councils around the state are live streaming, and they are recording and archiving meetings, but there are some that are not. And it's, a transparency issue when a citizen can't go and see what their city council is discussing. You want to be more actively engaged. And in order to do that, you need to know what your city council members or county commission members are saying. So I would encourage all of you to find out if your city council or county commission is live streaming and archiving their footage.
And Kathy asked if you could talk further about how the Rules Committee sets the schedule.
So there is a rules meeting, and those discussions happen so fast in terms of when you look at the Rules Committee. Let's see here. Just type in Rules Committee. I feel like they work with the committee chairs and go through this, but the Rules Committee, because whenever the Rules Committee actually comes up to vote on it, it's like they've already had their list of bills that they're in, and they just approve it. And it happens so fast, and you don't really get that insight into, you don't get the conversations that are happening behind the screen of how they decided which bills are they do those in the back rooms, and they come together with the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee just approves it, and then it moves forward. So those conversations are happening in the halls, I think. So, yeah.
I wanted to just add, Tara, when we were in the middle of the session, there were times when bills would be introduced one day and scheduled for the committee the very next day, and that was really tough because they were very high. They had people who wanted to be there to testify, and by doing that, they took away the option. They made it really hard to get people to Montgomery. But what was really nice was, working in collaboration with the other organizations, the league, working with organizations who we knew were working on that bill. Tara called me, and I was already on my way to Montgomery for another meeting. And so then we called some other people, and it's kind of like a coconut telegraph, that we're all basically staying in touch with each other and letting each other know, hey, there's a committee meeting, because they actually introduced it the previous day and had a hearing before noon the very next day. And so it was, it's one of the, it's something that I guess I want to just say, you know, Tara's watching and paying attention. And then when I found out about it, you know, we knew that that it was happening so quickly that there was going to miss some people. So I guess I'm just telling everybody on this call that it would be good to get plugged in to where if you've got an organization that's tracking a certain bill and then we all basically keep up with each other, then it's a lot easier to stay on top of stuff as quickly as it's happening.
Mhm. Yeah, if you like what we're doing, we do have a donate button on the website. And you know, we're always needing support to continually provide this for the state for free. And we think it's just a really important tool to have for everyone. And we want to make sure it sticks around. We're kind of like the C-SPAN of Alabama. So, yeah.
I would suggest to people if they get a chance to go to the House and legislative site and look at the pre-filed bills and see what they have out there, because you'd be shocked at what they're wanting to do this year.
Yeah, once again, you just go to bills current session, and you're going to be able to see the list of bills here, as long as their website works.
Yeah. Last time I looked, it was only 32 pages and expanded since then.
Yeah, I think I just saw it was like 170 something bills that are pre-filed, and I think I've seen where it's gotten up to 4,000 bills sometimes during a session. I mean, it's a lot of bills, and only a few of them even get to committee and have the
Right.
opportunity to be discussed. And there's a lot of, you know, I find that interesting. You might find a bill that you really are in favor of, and you might want to go and, you know, to that committee chair and talk to them about getting it on the agenda and talking about it. Like that's one form of advocacy, is just getting it to the committee to even be discussed. But yeah, it's not coming up because the site's, oh, there it goes. Yeah, we're at 179 bills so far. You can see that the different subjects lines here: taxation, education. So, you know, that helps you whittle down. So if you're really interested in education and you want to see what bills are about education, it can you can type that in and it's going to pull up all the bills related to education, and you can click on it and then click on the summary introduced, and that's where you get to read the context of the bill. Sometimes the bill language can be very confusing, quite honestly. And I know there's different viewpoints on AI right now, and when to use AI and the power consumption and the water consumption and all these things. But I have found copying and pasting bill language sometimes into a tool like that and saying, like, break this down and help me understand this better. It can do some of these things. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that happening to summarize things, make your argument in cases sometimes. So,
Tara, can you show them a constitutional amendment?
Show a constitutional amendment?
That's in the bills that are pre-filed. There's several, or at least two or three that I've seen. I think you can search on it, I believe.
Constitutional amendment. Okay, here's one. Authorize general laws and constitutional amendments to be initiated through public petition process is HB 14. And it has a lot of pages here.
So these would, if passed, this would be put on the ballot in November for either for a local amendment or a state amendment. This would be a state amendment.
Yeah. Hope everybody's ready to do a lot of research. There's a lot out there to dig through. Yeah.
I was actually wondering, Judy, do you want to talk about how the Take Action Tuesdays are, Kim, and how, I mean, we use some of the stuff from Alabama Channel to help illustrate when it starts going down, when things happen.
That's actually what I was just going to say as we're wrapping up. I was going to remind everyone or tell people who don't know, that we have the Take Action Tuesday newsletter that comes out on Tuesday mornings, every Tuesday morning during the session. Since committee meetings are on Wednesday, we want to let you know what's coming up, what actions you can take, things you can contact your legislators about on Tuesday, so then they'll know your opinion before they go to committee meetings on Wednesday. And so Judy just put a link to sign up in the chat if anyone is interested in that. But we also, we not only have our own actions, but we have some partner organizations, and we share their actions as well, if they align with the things that we do in our positions. So that will start next Tuesday. Well, it'll be our very first one. And also just say that we have several other upcoming programs. So watch your email communications for information on those as well. And, so we'd like to keep you informed of everything that's going on. And let's see, I don't see any other questions. Tara, you have any final comments?
Just if anybody wants to reach out or has any questions you think of later, feel free to email us. You can email us directly at the Alabama channel at lwval.org, or just call me. I don't care. Let's talk about it. I just want everybody to be informed and everybody to be ready to go come January 13th. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Well, then here we go, another legislative session. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you attending.